This is another Disney podcast production.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Plan for the Magic, the podcast where we hope to help you plan or wing your next trip to the most magical place on Earth, the Walt Disney World Resort. I am Audrey. I'm here with my co-host, Dave. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm doing so well.
Good.
I'm doing well. I have a confession to make about our intro.
Oh.
It's getting a whole lot harder to wing it at Disney. I just have to be transparent. But please continue. Please continue.
That is sort of the whole setup of our show.
I know. I'm going to stick to my guns, but man, there's a lot of changes.
There are a lot of changes. Well, it has been a minute since we've rallied.
Yes.
Part of that is because, Dave, you were in Walt Disney World for the 50th, traveling for a bit. And for those who have not had a chance to go listen, you and Brandon do a terrific recap of your trip.
Oh, well, thank you.
Over on the Plan for the Magic, over on another Disney podcast, the Parent podcast. So definitely go listen to that. And I loved following you guys when you were there in real time.
It was nuts.
It was pretty wild.
I mean, I would say the coolest thing about especially October 1st, but really all of that kind of week that we were there is those were your diehards that truly love Disney, right? Because like if you're, now that I've been there, I will definitely say if you're excited about the 50th, wait till all the new stuff gets there. I've been, if you're not in a hurry, go to the end of this year, early 2023. I mean, sorry, anytime in 2022, especially later would be better, or early 2023 when everything is done and ready. It's going to be well worth it. But I will say it was a different, everybody was kind of jovial. Jovial? Who uses that word? That was really bizarre. That like the way they treated like the cast, everybody was just really good on October 1st. Let me just say that. So you could tell that it was the Disney diehards, people that love Disney, that knew that, hey, 3/4 of the brand new stuff ain't even going to be here yet. Right. And so that was kind of cool. And just taking the time at the end of that day to like every cast member we saw, we just had, you guys killed it. You were amazing. Thank you. Like it was
so
good.
Fun to follow a bunch. I mean, I follow a bunch of Disney influencers, and not only were they all posting pictures, they were all posting pictures with each other. So it was just so fun to see. It really was like a big family reunion of kind of y'all diehards.
Yeah, we saw a lot of online personalities for sure.
That's so funny. Well, to your point about our intro, there are a lot of changes. We've been talking about these and hammering them away. I thought since this week, actually, wait, what day are we on? Yes, this week, Genie Plus, the Genie Lightning Lanes officially launched. I've been sitting at home watching a lot of this play out online, on social, and I am, planning for, we've got 2 trips in 2022. Andrew and I are going on a grown-ups only trip in January, and then our whole crew is going around spring break. So I've been thinking and trying to plan and watching very closely around Genie Plus. So I thought maybe we could spend a little time talking about, there are 5 questions I am asking myself. And so I'm wondering if maybe other people are asking themselves on if to use Genie Plus, when to use Genie Plus, and maybe how to use Genie Plus. So
can I be transparent? I have
any other way to be?
I have almost all of those questions.
Yeah. Okay.
So when we connected early, I was like, I don't really like we have some, it's funny, like this is why you should never take anything that we say, especially in another Disney podcast, with a grain of salt, because we always love to speculate. Well, we actually had some legit inside information. And when I say inside information, even the cast members that we have connections with, even those were like, that were literally involved with the app, were like several weeks ago, like, I mean, I'm talking like late August, early September, we're like, it's nowhere near ready. It's nowhere, like almost kind of like this sarcastic, we got a long way to go. And then here we go. Like they announced it like a week after we got back. Hey, we're doing it the 18th or whatever day that it launched. I was like, See, man, you just like, we can speculate until and so we were talking about this topic because this is what we're covering on this week's episode. And I was like, Audrey, because like all of our excitement leading up to the 50th, and we went, and I don't think I'm going back until maybe February. And that's a big question mark. Maybe I haven't even updated the app. I mean, I've been watching it on social media, but I haven't even looked through it to see it. So I'm so far behind because I'm like, I'm still coming down from my trip. Like, you know, I mean, I still have all the, I haven't worn all the merch that I bought yet. So, you know, anyway, so yeah, let's jump in and kind of walk us through some of these questions so we can kind of unpack them.
This is not one of my questions, but I do think, uploading or sort of refreshing the app is going to be important, and to get in there, and because it looks different. In fact, they made a change on day 2 because for the people who love, like me, seeing your there was on the old app, there was a section called My Plans where it had every reservation that you had coming up forever, no matter if they were in the same trip or not. That was not there on launch day, and people were like, where are my plans? And so they actually added something. It's not quite called My Plans, but you can go there. I think it's called Future Plans. And so now it's back. So even as we're watching it unfold, it is definitely changing in real time. Okay, so just a quick recap. Genie is a planning touring capacity that is part of the My Disney experience. It is very similar to it wants to be very similar to what our friends over at Touring Plans have been doing for years. There are some, I mean, I had so much fun watching those guys in particular, just because they have so much insight into how the touring plan, you know, behind the curtain works. The second part of that is you can purchase for $15 per ticket per day access to something called Genie Plus. And just a quick FYI, if you have a park hopper ticket, that $15 will take you through. It can, if you go to all 4 parks, it's $115, and it's for the day for as many parks as you want to visit. And then the third part of this is this thing called Lightning Lane. This is where it gets confusing. Lightning Lane is both something you can purchase and a location. So on every attraction, there is literally a place called Lightning Lane. Yes. And with your Genie Plus, you have access to that Lightning Lane. But it is also, there are a certain group of attractions that are included in Genie Plus. And then there are 2 headliners at each park that are not included in Genie Plus. They are, you have to purchase them for an additional fee.
Yes. Is that fee the same per attraction or?
No, it is different per attraction, and it is different per day. Oh, so my goodness. That price changes often. Yep. And it will continue.
When I saw somebody say, hey, it was totally worth it to pay $9 to go through the Lightning Lane for Ratatouille, that may not be the price when I go.
It's already gone up for the weekend. Yeah. So the prices are different for this weekend than they were.
So to summarize what Audrey is saying, when somebody asks you about the new Genie app and asks you any question, just say yes. Because you're likely to be wrong, or whatever you know now will immediately change the next day. Just kidding. Yes. So this is I think it is worth bringing up that this is, I ignorantly, or I guess I should say innocently, ignorance, assumed that this was like a whole brand new app. This is not. So all you need to do is, if you haven't, open up like My Disney Experience or go to whatever app store that you have, and you just update My Disney Experience, and it's there. So I thought it was going to be, I thought My Disney Experience was going bye-bye and they were just creating something new from scratch. So that's your first step. If you haven't updated, like me, I still don't have it. Update the app and you'll have access to it.
Yeah,
and it's a free update.
Very It's a free update. Yep. And the cover page looks very similar. You still
Yeah.
have the news and the videos and wallpapers you can download. It's when you move into the kind of your plans
Planning
and functioning
stage.
and that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
for sure.
Okay, let's get to some questions. And this is not going to answer all of your questions. In fact, I think we talked last week or last episode about a lot of resources. Another one that I didn't mention, she doesn't really have a website or a platform, but Brooke McDonald
Had a farm.
is a terrific follow on Instagram. She's been in the parks all week, and she will do a play-by-play of her entire day and then save it. So check her out. I've been watching her, and some of these insights have come specifically from her. Like I said, some have come from Lynn and the touring plans folks. But the very first question, and this will harken back to our episode 11,
Yes.
where we talked about budgeting, and that one of those line items in your budget should be about extras. And so before you have any conversation about Genie Plus, Lightning Lanes, whatever, is how much is in that extras line item, and have you already spent have you spent that money on things
Right.
like dessert parties or a cruise or whatever extras you want to do? So identifying how much, because all of these expenses go on top of everything else that you have purchased.
Correct.
So this is on top of your resort stay and your ticket price and your park hopper and all of that. So yeah, so that is the budget. The next thing, and this is where, even you and I, like, this attractions list is tricky. So
Very.
are there attractions that are must do? And this is a caveat with Genie Plus, which is different from a lot of the other add-on purchases. You are not obligated to purchase Genie Plus for every person in your party.
No.
So in the dining plan, if you want to do the dining plan, it's all or nothing. Everybody gets the dining plan,
Right.
or nobody gets the dining plan. That's not what happens here. And that's really important when you, I think, are traveling with like kids like us, like our family. Our kids are not big adventure. They don't like the headliners. And so if we started making our lists of must-do attractions for each person in our party, it's going to look different for me and Andrew than it is for the kids.
Right.
But you guys are mostly like, your kiddos they'll do anything, right?
Yeah. Isaiah is still, Micaiah did Rock and Roller Coaster. She was very excited. I think it was the most terrifying moment of her life. It's my favorite picture that we have on an attraction, on a ride. Yes. Dear goodness. It was like she left her body. And then, but she does like, Everest, right? So there's that, like, but yeah, most of they're not big lose your stomach kids, which is my favorite thing about roller coasters. So as long as it doesn't do that, which, I mean, I would say it's 90% of things at Disney don't. And that's why we like it personally more than your Busch Gardens, your Kings Dominion, your Six Flags. They're still at the stage, and they may never grow out of it. I have tons of friends who are full grown men that are like, I'm not getting on a roller coaster. And to me, I'm like, I live for roller coasters. So, but yeah, for the most part, like, and I still would bend to my kids. Like because again, this hankers back to, I've been so many times, that like when I go and get to take a kid, it's all like, what do you want to do? Cause it's like, I don't care. I come all the time.
You go all the time.
Right.
That's totally right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I definitely think it's worth it to think about, and I would say it's important to differentiate, I think, between your must-dos and like, sure, I'd go on the teacups, or sure, I'd go on Turtle Talk, right? I mean, if those aren't a must-do, don't put them on your list. This what I'm talking about are the ones that like, I have to go on Soarin', or my time at Epcot is just not going to be complete.
There is something curious. I didn't look all the way through our notes to know if you're going to talk about this. So let me ask first. Are you going to talk about or is it in the notes part of the fact that, okay, so your like if you do Genie Plus and you pick your like 3. It's 3, correct?
It's one at a time.
Well, okay. All right. That's right. That's right. So one at a time.
Mhm.
What's important to know is that let's just say you love Tower of Terror. Okay.
Right.
And
Yep.
you select that.
Yep.
Where this is massively different from FastPass is if I used my 3 FastPasses, right?
Yeah.
And let's say I picked, let's just say it's a weird world where FastPass existed for everything that's open now. I picked it for Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, and the Toy Story Land roller coaster. I can't think of the name. Okay.
Slinky Dog.
Yes. If you, after you exhausted your 3, if you went back in and saw Tower of Terror, you could get it.
Right.
Again, you could get that as long as it was available. You could get it as many times as you want to.
That's right.
That is not the case.
Correct.
With the Genie Plus. And I understand it, but it doesn't make sense to me. At all. But, and I think the reason why is if you remember back to FastPass, your popular rides would run out fairly early in the day. When I say early, like by mid-afternoon, right?
Yep.
And then you had some that weren't as popular that like 6, 7, 8, an hour before park closed, you can still get some, right? Yep. And so if you're always, we always did the hashtag pound the app. If you were pounding that app and refreshing, you could get them.
Yeah.
And so the big difference is, and I do kind of like this, is that these aren't going to run out.
Well,
so they won't really hit a capacity, is what they've said. So that's what I'm going to leave it at.
So, yeah, I think in practice that unfortunately is not true, that they are running out. Yeah. So.
And we're not at 100% capacity, I'm guessing.
No, I know. And this is why I don't remember. I have to look at my notes. I don't remember what question, but well, yeah. So the next question on the list, we have the budget question number 1. We have our must-do attractions. The question number 3 is, am I staying on property?
Yeah.
A handful of episodes ago, we were like, what's the perk? Show me the perks. This is a huge perk. So property guests can start booking their day of Genie Plus and make a purchase for an individual lightning lane at 7 a.m.
Yep.
Non-resort guests have to wait until 9. And I can't remember. I did not put this in our notes. I don't remember the ride. I feel like I must have been Rise of the Resistance, which is a purchased lightning lane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if what you said is true about the Genie Plus lightning lanes. But anyway, all of I think it was Ratatouille and Rise of the Resistance paid individual lightning lanes were gone by like 9:01.
Yeah.
So there was plenty to snag between 7 and 9, but as soon as it opened up for everybody else, they were gone.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on this, that I'll go all the way back to when they announced this pricing. I mean, they know what they're doing, but this is the problem with it being so attainable. Like, I mean, I know people would come in with pitchforks for sure if
but isn't it the same as fast passes? Like it's very possible there was not a fast pass for Rise of Resistance.
Right.
On
Yeah.
the day that
sure.
you wanted it. And so, I mean, to me, the limited capacity isn't that.
Yeah. I just feel like it should have been $50 a person per day. I know that sounds, I know people would throw like tomatoes at me, but like, because now we're going to be right back at the same spot, right? So now everybody who's in standby is like, the standby queues are going to go back to 90 minutes plus and all these people, because I'm one of those. Like, if I didn't go to Disney World all the time, let's just say we went for 7 days and we went to Park Days 5, right? Well, those 4 days and my family of 4, absolutely I'm spending $60 to get that. This is a we'll bring one meal a day to the parks. Like it's too easily attainable. So all of that, like, we're right back. We're going to be right back to where we are. And now it sounds like it's worse that it's running out so early. Sorry, I'm being so negative. My bad.
No. So the $60 is for the Genie plus lightning lanes.
Right.
So the ones I think that were running out were the individual lightning
lanes.
Okay. Yeah. And so I do think the staying on property is going to be a big deal when you're sort of negotiating your likelihood of getting those. But my very next question number 4 is, will you rope drop? Because I do think if you are spending the $15 per ticket per day on the Genie Plus, okay, and I don't think we said this, and Dave, maybe you can make sure that there's a link in the show notes to the list of attractions that are the 2 individual purchase only lightning lanes for each park. I can just rattle those off real quick. In Magic Kingdom, it's Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Space Mountain. Epcot, it's Ratatouille and Frozen Ever After. Hollywood, it is Rise and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Mm-hmm. Nailed it.
And Animal Kingdom, it's Flight of Passage and Expedition.
Which, can we just stop right there?
Yeah.
Hands down, the worst decision that they made. Like, first of all, almost always Everest is less than 20 minutes. And they have a single rider line. And it's getting ready to close for a multi-month refurbishment. So I'm assuming they're going to switch it to another one. But I'm like, I don't understand that choice.
I think, there's another, like, I don't know that. So your point of, well, it could be that just, again, I mean, I'm team meal plan, which is probably a financial terrible decision for our family, but I love knowing that we have it, and whatever.
Right.
Meal
sure.
Plans don't exist right now. So it could be the same idea. I'm just going to do Genie Plus for every single day we're there. I don't even want to think about it. I do think there are parks where it makes much less sense than other parks. I think Animal Kingdom just does not make a ton of sense to purchase that for what you get. Again, if you are a rope dropper, and we have these touring plans where you can navigate these rides, I think without, I don't know. I mean, this is the process I'm in right now. I'm asking myself these questions. Right. I'm trying to figure out if there's only 2 of the rides in Animal Kingdom that are on my must.
Was it Flight of Passage? You did. It was Flight of Passage, correct? It's
Flight of Passage and Everest. Yeah. But again, if you're, and I get it. I mean, we are the early risers. I've been singing this song since episode 1 of this podcast. We like to get up. Rope dropping we find that a super fun part of the Disney experience, which means whatever's on that individual lightning lane that we don't want to pay for, that can be on our list, right? Of where we go first.
Okay. But TV timeout, there's a big asterisk that you should include in that. If you are not staying on Disney property, there will already be a significant line to whatever you're headed to. Let me give you an example. Yes. So a really good friend of ours, Matt's, his pastor just went Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday. Yes. They were staying off property, got there at rope drop specifically to get in line for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, because that's all they've seen, that's all they've read. He texted me as they got in line, and he was like, there's a 60-minute wait already. And I had texted him, I was like, because people staying on property get into the park 30 minutes early. And so that is another thing to consider if you're not staying off property, that you won't be there like rushing to get in line with all of the firsties. There will already be like people that were there an hour before the park even opened, walked all the lines down Main Street, and then right when it opened 30 minutes early to hotel guests, they were the first ones in line. And think about how many Disney rooms that they have on property. And then the other thing that I want to share is, this is really brief. Go.
No, I would just say that exactly what you said. I don't know that you can truly rope drop if you are not staying on a resort, in a resort property right now. Yeah.
And even that doesn't have that magical feel that it used to have, to where like you rope drop and run to the front of the castle and watch the stage show. I know I'm only speaking of one park, but I do want to say this. I do want to say this, especially when it comes to Flight of Passage. And that is, we have figured out a really good system for us for Flight of Passage. And that is, now this depends on, like, I know that's not a park that always stays open super duper late.
Right.
But so even if you don't have night owl kids, if you're already wiped out for the end of the day, it doesn't even matter if it's 8 o'clock, it's still going to be a struggle. But we have done this, I would say 5 or 6 times, and it has been the best scenario every time. And that is, we go and find the little cast member holding the sign that says end of line for Flight of Passage. And we're standing there 2 minutes before the park closes. Yeah. And we're talking to the cast member, and we're like, so they let us, to let them know what we're doing. And so we get in line when they close the line for park closing. And why that matter? Now, people are going to say, yeah, but you got all those people in front of you. Yes, but not lightning lane people or before fast pass people. So only the people it moves. We've never waited more than 30 minutes to do that at the end. So that is a great, so if you don't want to spend, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a fluctuating number, but that is a thing that works really, really good because nobody else is getting in front of you. Right. It's just the queue that you're in.
I love that idea. And I think that we need to squeeze some blood out of this orange apple.
Yes,
orange.
For sure. Orange.
What are we calling it? Yeah. So, and if you're not, I think having a tip like that for people who aren't rope droppers or who aren't staying on property,
right.
That there are ways around that. And I feel like I'm going to spend some time on this, and maybe we'll take it day by day and think about park by park of what are tips of how to get to some of these, headliners if you aren't staying on property, which means you're not going to get the individual lightning lane if you want to purchase it, or you're not going to get to rope drop it. How do you figure out ways around it? So I love that.
The other thing, especially about that one, is I know they've increased the hours, and it'll help a lot when we go through the time change in a couple of weeks. But the last couple of times that I've been there, it was a result of COVID, so less staff members, so they weren't staying open anywhere close to nighttime. And when we were there for the 50th, it wasn't open anywhere close to experience anything at night there. And so what's challenging is if you're a rope dropper and go and do that, like the Pandora is a must see land at night. And so if you do that, you need to go back, and now you're having to go back, and now maybe you go do the boat ride, and that's fine, but it's you'll have to double dip. That's just why we always waited to the end of the day, because then you get out, and really what's cool is you as you're exiting, you walk really slow, and you kind of have the whole place to yourself. Again, and this strategy is going to be different or this strategy will be the same for any other attraction, meaning like if Soarin' is your jam and there's an hour and a half wait all day, do the same thing. Just go stand up next to the cast members, start chatting with them, make them aware of what you're doing. You're not the only person that does it. It just so happens to be every time we've done it for Flight of Passage, there really wasn't anybody else, but we've done it at other rides where there was a handful of people just standing there waiting to get in line.
Yeah. And I also feel like this is how there are moments where I'm like, do I really want to get on Flight of Passage at like 8:05 in the morning?
Right. Exactly.
That sometimes just is not appealing. I've hardly had a cup of coffee. And so that is something to really consider. I think about often when I think of like these huge headliners super early in the morning. I'm like, is that really how I want to start? Some days, yes, that's exactly how I want to start my day, but that's a lot. That's straight out of the cannon, man, going for some of these big ones.
Yes, it is big.
And so the last question on my list to think about as you're perusing, as you start thinking about these additional add-ons is park hopping. So I actually think this is where park hopping has a perk, because you, this is what I believe I have read, is that once and it's the way the Disney Plus lightning lanes work is as soon as you check in, right? So you scan your Magic Band or your phone or the app, then you can search for the next one that you want to ride. And as long as you have a park hopper ticket, you can add the next park. And this is important to do. You can actually you can load in the app that you're going to multiple parks the first thing in the morning. Like I'm going to do Magic Kingdom, and I'm going to park hop to Epcot, so that it knows what your plan is. And then as soon as you do, I don't know, Pirates or whatever, you can book your next Genie Plus Lightning Lane for whatever park you're going to next before you get into that park. I think I was pretty surprised that they did it that way, and they didn't require you to be in the park first. So that's one I think we might keep an eye on if they change that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, but right now, just so long as you leave yourself time to get over there. I don't know how tight the time windows are. I think that'll be something else to watch people report in real time.
I'll be looking forward to Lynn and the team over at Touring Plans, because I know that they'll measure that and then, measure it long enough to get like a viable like number. But yeah, there's the grace period. What is that going to be like? Because we all knew how to stretch it for fast passes for sure. Yeah.
One of the things they said, which just cracked me up, because I'm like, of course the data guys would bring this to their attention. The wait times in the app are a little unclear.
Yes.
So when you're trying to do your touring, they'll suggest to go to this, but trying to see in the app what the wait times are is less obvious than it used to be. And they do not use the same XY axis for all of the charts. So the wait time graph for like Small World looked longer than the wait time graph. I can't remember what the two were that they compared, one, they just changed the numbers. And so when you glanced at it, they were just saying you need to pay really close attention, because if you just looked at your phone, you're like, oh my gosh, Small World looks like, that graph is much higher than, I don't remember, Pirates.
I will say this.
But that was funny.
Like, they'll never admit to this. They'll never say it. It's never been talked about. But to quote Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when it comes to Disney and their posted times, I would believe that about as far as I could throw an attraction.
Yeah.
And then my joke is, well, Ed, with your bad knee, you shouldn't be throwing anybody. There's your Ferris Bueller's joke right there.
All the pencils in her hair.
Yes, she was that. I love that movie. So that's another piece that's so challenging, right? Because you just I can't tell you how many times like we'll go up to Soaring and I'm like, man, it's 45 minutes. And Brandon would be like, it's not 45 minutes. And I'm like, all right, it's the end of the day. Let's just go. And like first of all, the walk takes 10 to 12 minutes to just get to where the thing is. And then it was like long. A two ride wait.
Yeah.
And it was posted 45 minutes. That because what that does is people like me and probably like you, Audrey. I mean, I don't mean to group you in with me, but I would look at that and be like, no, we have an hour and a half left in the park. I'm not spending 45 minutes waiting in line for. And so I'm not saying they're doing that, but that was just one example of multiple times a trip that we see that multiple times.
This goes back to our resources episode where the Lines app that Lynn and his crew, sorry, I just kicked my table. That his crew, they have real-time data on wait times. So I would trust that, I think, more than, and again, I think there's just going to be a lot. This is literally hot off the presses, brand new. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I had to give them props for that.
I will say, I'd love to add some micro questions. Just to do about or micro. I don't know why I used that word because I don't know where to go. Like things to consider that we haven't asked, things to ask yourself that we didn't ask in this five question thing. Okay. So one is, like I mentioned, like if you're there for let's say if you're there for more than 4 days and visiting parks multiple times, I kind of mentioned it briefly. So a question to ask is, do you get it only we'll get it for every full day that we have at a park, or every day that we're make sure that we cover all 4, or do you plan it to where like there's way more attractions at Magic Kingdom? And so if you go to Magic Kingdom 2 or 3 times in a 7-day stay, do you do it there instead? But then that also, you have to also, because it's so different, if you're park hopping, like you can squeeze some extra rides in there. So there's all these things that you have to ask yourself when you're going to buy it. So it's almost like if Animal Kingdom, just say for you, is a half-day park, right?
Yep.
So and you're going back to Magic Kingdom for the second time, right? And you bought oh gosh, I'm making this so confusing. Let's say you went to Magic Kingdom on Monday and you bought the $15 Genie Plus, and then you're going to Animal Kingdom on Tuesday, but you're going to be done by 2:00 and then go back and rest and going back to Magic Kingdom from 6 to 10 p.m. Okay, let's just say that's the thing.
Yep.
So I would get it for both of those 2 days, because if there was something that I didn't get at Magic Kingdom, I know that I'm going to use the ones and get what I have.
Free halfway. You already purchased it for Animal Kingdom.
That's the big bonus that is, I think that's the best thing, that you can do it multiple parks, not have to be there. It's so that's like a little micro question, because it's tricky, because just like anything, yes, this is an extra add-on, even though I don't think it's very expensive. It's certainly going to be expensive, when you add up all the other things that you're doing. You need to really strategize this out, because there's ways to save money and still get to eat cake too. There just is.
Right. And I think that writing that, what are my must do attractions? Right. Like if you're going to the Halloween party or an after events party, the words aren't coming to me, but
an after hours party.
After hours party. Yeah. I mean, those are expensive, but you can crush a bunch of attractions. So starting with what's your must do list of attractions, I think is a really important place to start, because if it's one at Animal Kingdom, you don't need to buy it on your Animal Kingdom day. You just rope drop that, or you are willing to wait an hour for whatever that ride is, and that's your day.
Yep.
And if it's, 10 Magic Kingdom rides, but you are planning on doing some kind of after hours or party, I do think there are, it's really important to think about what that extras budget is, what that list of attractions is, and then you kind of start putting it all together and think, what, exactly how you just described, this day and this day are the two I'm going to spend on.
Right.
And I'll park hop this. And then, if there were, maybe there's 2 at Animal Kingdom and 2 at Epcot, and you could park hop. Well, instead of doing those for 2 separate days, you park hop 1 day of Genie Plus, right? And then maybe you could even park hop those 2 days again without Genie Plus. Attractions isn't your thing on that day. You're going for shows and food and whatever. And you kind of think about it that way. It really is, I think, it's going to be kind of a new way to think about how you plan your days and tour.
Yeah. To me, I'm just going to be honest. Like I said this at the beginning, I have to rethink everything now.
It's so, it is
like, here's my bad joke. But I have to get it off my chest. I feel like George and Bob, who now work for Disney, who have a double master's and a triple doctorate in rocket science, put this together. It's so, who doesn't love options? Who does that's great, but it's overcomplicated, and I'm hoping that the Audrey and Dave Imagineers are going to be like, guys, we could so streamline this and make it a better experience for everybody all around. I'm not saying this is bad. It's just, and I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because it's new and I haven't really studied it, but I have a feeling that it's kind of a crapshoot right now. Like, not in a negative way. It's just a lot. There's a whole lot. It's a whole lot easier to mess it up.
I think that's true, actually. Yeah. And I think that, to your point about there was this season where you were winging it because you had done the work, right?
Yeah.
You knew the systems.
Got to go back to school.
I feel like we were strategizing when things were relatively uncomplicated.
Right.
And so now it's like, what is happening? And so, I think eventually really smart people are going to figure out systems on, and they're going to have advice, and we're going to read about that and talk about it. And I think we'll get over the hump, but it absolutely feels I mean, I even said we were originally, right? We were supposed to leave a week. Next Thursday is when we were supposed to go.
That's
and I said
right.
to Andrew, I would be freaking out right now. I would be losing my mind.
Yeah, you would be spending every waking moment that you're not working or parenting trying to figure it out.
For us for next week. I mean, so I'm actually feeling a little bit relieved. And it'll be fun that Andrew and I can kind of play with this a little bit, right? We're only going for 4 days and it's just the two of us. So even if we make a mistake on the paid for something we don't really need, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But yeah, I totally am with you.
There's a lot going on.
Like someone who's super smart with this is like,
That's why when I first,
and I'm like, what is happening?
When I glanced, I wouldn't even say grazed. When I glanced the article on Blog Mickey and I read through the thing, I was like, I'm not figuring this out right now. It's like, I don't have to deal with this on my 50th trip. I can just go and enjoy it. And so, like, I'm not kidding. I have not updated my Disney experience, not because I'm not interested. I'm just like, well, I don't have to worry about it for several months. So I'll wait until, like you said, like people that we follow and all these videos, like all of these tips and tricks videos are going to come out all over YouTube, and we're going to be like, yes. And then we'll, take the cliff notes and then we'll give you a podcast about it. It'd be great.
Exactly right. That's how we roll.
That's right.
Yeah.
Smart work, not hard work. Come on.
Hey.
Come on, girl.
I like that.
That's right.
I love it. All right. Well, that's it for it. That's all. My brain is like, I feel like it's going to start smoking.
I don't want to talk about it anymore. Because like we went through this and now I'm like, I have 16 questions for Audrey because she knows this, but I don't think this is the right time or the right platform to ask this question. I love it. All
right, friends. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bicycle.
Bye.